Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on social media at Galen Trombley. I hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Please hold for a very important message. Light speed sequence initiated. How may I help you?
Bonjour.
Security breach.
The truth shall set you free. Awesome. It's a miracle.
Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Mission complete.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, rolling. Episode 249 of the Galen Trombley Show. Almost 250. I wonder who's lined up for 250.
You should have had me.
Not as good as Molly. We're going to promise that, but this would be good. We got Molly Ryan, returning guest. First question I was going to ask you, because you rolled in with a vote shirt, because today is election day.
Sure is.
But I was actually thinking of you like when I was reading this yesterday, and I was like, Molly must be like so much more calmer on election days now.
It's almost like withdrawal.
Do you miss it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Right? Like, and it's an off-season election.
Yes.
If this were not, and I should say every election is important, but I'm not going to be glued to
Some
a
are more
TV. Not going to be
publicized
glued to a
than
TV tonight. I'm less stressed because I don't have a personal stake in the game, but obviously we all have a stake in that game. So it's more of a hobby now than a profession.
So like, we're just dip your toes back into the past life for a second. Like on election day, what was it like for you? Like the day of election, was it kind of like calm, or was it was still like craziness?
Well, so it kind of depends on which election you're talking about, right? Because when I was with in my former life with the assemblyman, he didn't have any opponent the years that I was his chief of staff.
Okay.
But the first year that he ran and I was significantly involved in helping him that year, that was very stressful because it was a very close race. Mm-hmm. And then, years prior to that, when I worked for Congressman Owens, I'd worked for him. So him getting reelected meant I had a job. So if he didn't get reelected, I wouldn't have a job.
So you were doing all the campaigning for him at that point?
For Bill, not real. Bill, I did more constituent services and would help. Mm-hmm. Bill had a separate campaign team.
Okay.
New York State politics is a little bit different. Your staff is generally more heavily involved in your campaign.
Okay.
The state makes it a little easier for you to kind of take time off and be able to do that.
Okay. Because I've had this before, and actually recently I had Billy on and Mike, and I'm trying to think. I think there was someone else that was running. Maybe not. Oh, no, I have someone coming up that is running currently now. And they're basically like how quickly you always have to campaign. Like Mike right now is up and he's
unopposed.
Unopposed, but it's every 4 years, so he doesn't really have to do a lot. And I was talking about Mike. He's still out there knocking on doors. He came to my house. He still has signs out. And I think for him, he still likes the idea of being involved. And he's got coworkers at this point that are running. And there's actually quite a bit from the town. Well, I mean, I'm in the town of Plattsburgh now. So there's quite a bit in the town of Plattsburgh that are running.
There are. Yep.
Is there like a big race that you think like this is, or more about this than I do? Is it the county clerk position? Is it the family court judge? Because those seem to be kind of the two main ones that I'm seeing on a county level.
Yeah. Well, this is a biased opinion, probably. So probably depends on who you ask. But in reality, I mean, a judgeship position is important. Mm-hmm. But, how often are you going to personally interact with the family court judge? Probably, I hope, not very often. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have, as much as a far-reaching impact on people's everyday lives. The county clerk position, on the other hand, as you know, they control deeds. They have, they do all the passport work. They control the DMV. Most of what the county clerk's position does have an impact on most people's lives at some point within the year. Mm-hmm. Everyone has to renew their car. Everyone has to get a license. So, those are things that have like a real lasting impact on your everyday life. So that being said, too, the Clinton County Legislature is a 5-5 split. And when that happens politically, so the county clerk is the tie-breaking vote when it comes to anything like that. So even though it's local politics, you still have some of that partisanship that gets in the way.
As much as next year is the big national one, that one's going to get all the publicity and everything like that. But I always look at the amount of people you voted for, and there wasn't a ton of people like running against each other this year.
No,
There's a few, the
no.
ones you just mentioned, and I think there might have been one other one like in the town. When you look at that, it's like those have more of a direct impact than
100%.
than next year.
Even like your town council. I mean, that's huge, right? Like they decide, what zoning, they ultimately approve the zoning that goes up in your what's going to be economic development, what's going to be housing, what's going to, tax rates, garbage removal, all these different things affect your literal everyday life. So wastewater, not sexy stuff to talk about, but stuff that really has a lasting impact on what we do.
Very unsexy when it
Very
comes up, though. So, have you ever thought about running for any kind of political
Never.
stuff? Is that just not you like it as like now a hobbyist?
Yeah. No. I worked for them. I would never run. Never.
Too much. Especially now. I mean,
no.
family it gets tough on too. I would think.
Well, ultimately that was a real decision as to why I didn't continue on with the assembly. I mean, I loved my job with Billy. He and I still talk very regularly.
Yeah.
But my daughter's 16, my son is 11. Political life is, as Billy will probably tell you, I mean, he's on the road every day, all day long, and it gets old. So I wanted to be a little closer to home before my kids go off. And I'm pretty much 9 to 5 now. My weekends are mine again. So I can volunteer some more. I can be, at my kids' plays or, things like that I,
or
would
just
have
hang
to
out
juggle
on the couch
before.
and watch.
There's that too.
And watch a show or something.
Yep.
Watch football.
Listen to podcasts.
Listen to podcasts. Actually, well, before we dive into all the stuff, go back to podcasts. So you said you were anti-podcast. Now you're semi into podcasts.
Semi, yes.
So when you say, I want to, again, anti-podcast was more of like you didn't enjoy listening to podcasts, or you're like, I just think that is a dumb thing. Why
No, I just didn't enjoy listening to them. Like when I love music. So like when I get in the car, I'm blasting the tunes, right?
Okay.
My husband, on the other hand, is like a huge either podcast or audiobook. And I get in the car and be like, oh, really? Like, I don't want to think right now. And he listens to very like intellectual podcasts.
So
like, this is
I'm
boring.
I feel like him and I would align because my wife is like music. I listen to music when I'm in the car with like the kids and with her, and then I'll bring the I'll have whatever in the morning on. And it's lucky if it's my music in the morning because like this morning we blasted some Frozen. Yeah. But we ended up doing that, and then I quickly turn it back to like a book typically. Yeah.
Well, so it probably was a graduation. So I love the Today Show. Like I'm a Today Show nerd.
Okay.
And I have Sirius XM. So I started listening to the Today Show when I get in the car. Just get done watching the Today Show and then I can turn it on in the car. But then if you keep it on, what I came to find out was in the afternoon, they have all these different podcasts with like executive producers and like
Willie
you
Geist?
No, like
Sunday morning. He has like a Sunday morning podcast.
But it's like it's literally like they're executive producers of the different shows, and like to pull off these shows, like they are timed like to the second, and like just to listen to them talk about all the different as an event planner, like I just kind of was like, this is so cool to listen to. So that kind of graduated that way, and then. As I was saying, I've had a few like mindless ones that I now listen to. So
I've actually simplified my podcasts lately. Like I try if I listen to something, I listen to podcasts if I think I'm going to get more like I love Joe Rogan, but like I will listen to it now more so if I think the guest is like someone I really want to listen to.
Right.
Where I used to listen to just a lot of them, but I pick and choose. So if I find there's a couple like. Kind of more like entrepreneur business people that I follow, and they have something that's interesting, I'll listen to it. But most of the time, I try to go through books. Have you watched? Speaking of, have you ever seen The Morning Show? Do you watch that at all on Apple?
I don't. No.
Okay, so then I'll skip it. I'm not going to get into it. It has like it's really good. It's like Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and like a bunch of people. But
I have heard of it. Yes.
Did you ever watch House of Cards?
Yes.
Okay. So think of House of Cards, but like morning
on the
show.
TV show, on the TV world.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very similar. So it's got like the same.
I have seen some promos for it. It does look very good.
Not as dramatic as House of Cards, which is I loved House of Cards, but it's the same.
Tarnished now, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it kind of went downhill, but it's the first like 5 seasons.
They were great.
Like, these are,
great.
Like yes, but okay. So now I'll get the actual title right. If I mess this up, please correct me. You're the Director of Economic Development.
Yes.
And you are the Executive Director for the County of Clinton Industrial Development Agency, so IDA.
Yep.
And County of Clinton, that is the formal term. I've never heard
County
that
of
before.
Clinton Industrial Development Agency is the legal terminology. But if you're talking about just like the county side, Clinton County is fine.
But like legally, that's what it's actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, so what do you do?
I'm so glad that you waited to get me back on this podcast because it took me like almost to now to figure out what I do.
You got briefed this morning. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm very fortunate. So as you mentioned, I have two different roles. So one of them is being the economic development director for the county, which that is a little bit more fluid, overseeing grants, trying to get grant funding for economic development opportunities for the county, working with different businesses that may want to come into the county. I'm heavily involved with the Plattsburgh International Airport and the director there because we have several properties there, of which the county gets about $1 million in revenue each year from renting those properties out. So it's one of our biggest revenue generators. Okay. Obviously, getting flight service is pivotal to economic development. We're very happy to just announce that we just got the Breeze Airways.
Where's that going to?
It will be going directly to Orlando, so MCO,
Okay.
as opposed to Sanford.
Okay.
And Breeze is a pretty up-and-coming airline founded by the JetBlue founder.
Okay.
And their mission is to kind of connect places that wouldn't normally connect. So, like they have a flight that goes from Maine to Las Vegas. This Plattsburgh one is going directly to Orlando. So bypassing some of those major hubs while still connecting you to really cool places. So, really great opportunity for the North Country, especially given the JetBlue announcement over in Burlington.
Yep.
That role's a little bit more, I would say, ambiguous. It's kind of whatever the county needs me to do is what I do. Because everything, in my opinion, comes down to economic development. Mm-hmm. So, on the flip side, the Industrial Development Agency is more specific. So I'm the executive director there. I have a board of 7. And what we do is we offer tax incentives to businesses. New York State isn't exactly known for being business friendly, but a way that we've kind of been able to counteract that is to create these industrial development agencies across the state. And what we do is we can offer sales tax exemptions, we can offer mortgage recording tax exemptions, but more what we're known for is what we call our pilot, so payment in lieu of tax plans. And the way we do that is when a company either decides to expand or to set up shop, so to speak, depending on the scale of the project, what kind of workforce development is involved, how many people they're going to employ, they'll get a score, and that will tell us what kind of tax incentive they can get. So it's basically a graduated tax payment plan. So instead of, when you buy a house, right? So somebody buys a house for a bargain of $300,000, right? Isn't that a bargain these days? So, but when they buy that, they get that assessment's going to jump pretty quickly because that's what you bought it for and that's what you're going to assess for. So in the business world, what we're able to do is delay that new assessment. So if you're, building a building of like $5 million, that tax appraisal is going to go up pretty hard and your taxes are going to go up pretty fast. So what we're able to do is do a graduated process. So it's an agreement that says, over the next 10 years, we'll graduate to that payment scale as opposed to doing it right away. Gives the business a little bit of flexibility, gives them a little extra capital in their pockets so that they can employ more people or buy more machinery or whatever it is. So makes it a little bit easier to do business in Clinton County. So,
because I had David Champagne on. And
Yep.
You guys work a lot together?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So he was great. And he was saying the same thing with like the idea of, obviously New York State taxes, things like that. But he didn't find that was as big. What was the term? Was it manufacturing tax? Was that what the term? There was something. There was a couple things that he said that he felt.
New York State manufacturers do not pay sales tax.
Okay, so maybe that
if they're
was
in the manufacturing world. Yeah.
Because he didn't seem to. He said that there, obviously that is something, but he didn't seem to think that it was as drastic that like would change someone from coming here. I think obviously all things being equal, that's that probably be a kicker. But he thinks a lot of it is just purely location. There's a big draw there that people make. You have trade offs everywhere and you make compromises, but
location, right?
Yeah, and that's well,
that's very it's in every world. That's not just real estate. So
when I was talking, and again, and I've been lucky because you guys are all kind of coming on at the same time. So between Billy, Mike, David, and you, it's like everybody's kind of talking about the same thing. But I've seen and I mentioned this to all three of them. If you like were to pull back and stretch back to,
You save the best for last, though. So
I knew that. That's why I wasn't 250. We didn't do a good job at 250, but we're getting there. But so what we did was, what I asked them was, if you went back, because everybody wants stuff quick and kind of like that,
right?
Like, the idea that we want to snap our fingers and it to be done, and good things take time.
Yeah.
If you go back 10 years or go back 20 years, Plattsburgh there's a lot of the same things. There's a lot of brand new things that we never 10 years ago, I've been like, oh my God, like this, I forgot that's 10 years old now. Like it kind of slips your mind. And I think most people, myself included, we don't stop enough, turn back and say like, wow, look at how far we've come. But it's always like the next thing, which is a good idea to have.
Right.
But I feel like economic development, you're not playing Monopoly. It's not like you're rolling a dice and things happen.
Right.
It
It's
takes
very
time.
strategic.
Yeah.
So not that this is my story to tell, but I've been to several conferences now listening to the Onondaga County Chairman and County Executive talk, which is where Micron is going. And they'll talk about, it took them decades to land that, and a lot of work, a lot of risks.
Yeah.
So it is a poker game. You are taking some substantial risks sometimes, but calculated ones. You're not just playing the slot machine. You're looking at what the cards you have and what you can play with.
And I think a lot of things when you start off, it's kind of like the compound of like success builds. So I find when you're making these little small moves that are like little half steps, but they're all forward. So it's like a little half step. Even if you take a step back, it's kind of like a quick like step back, step forward.
Yep.
But people want to see these big strides. But what happens, like most things, like if you start getting those like little small wins and they happen, like they
build.
They start, or the cadence or the frequency gets quicker and build, and then it gets bigger. And so I feel like what we were looking at or trying to do, 15, like I think of back when I was like in high school, and then I look back to when I first got into like the industry that I'm in now, and then where we are at now. It's like there's been big jumps, and there's a lot of things that, I mean, even just like think Margaret Street, like that whole project, like people could say like, oh, it sucks, there's traffic. I mean, it's done now, which is incredible.
And the girl looks great.
Yeah. But you look at that, I'm like, in a year from now, you won't even remember that. And it's like a blink of the eye. And I said, and it's not even, the business is down there. I get it. Like that's tough, but it's also one, like it's going to happen now, or it's like, there's never a good time to do it.
And that's why I always say voters have very short-term memories.
Yeah.
Very short-term. They do.
Billy was giving me some good stories on that. Yeah.
They do. And like just you said, I'm sure the mayor has gotten lots and lots of pushback over the last couple of months. I mean, our downtown businesses certainly, I think, probably struggled more than anticipated because of it. But, hopefully they will thrive now because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look great. The traffic seems to be flowing much more smoothly. I travel it every day because that's where the county building is.
I didn't realize when they were building it, though. Like I in my mind, I thought you just turned on like right where the county building is, and it was a straight shot all the way to Warren Tire with one lane. And I didn't realize that they were just
a small
yeah.
portion
So like
of it.
then I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's really not
that big a
much,
deal.
So
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah. But people don't. People generally don't like change. People don't. People get very comfortable. Think about like when your iPhone does another update, you're like, son of a gun, I just got used to the way they have it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the 4 software changes ago, right? We adjust. We do adjust, but it takes us some time to.
Well, I think
accept it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like most stuff you can adjust to very quickly. It's just in your mind you think it's a bigger hurdle, and then same thing. You take a phone.
Right.
I guarantee you, within a week, you kind of have figured it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like especially because you're on it so long, because it's just reps. And
Yeah.
we did a bunch of stuff in the office recently, and I think that's the hard part is like nobody likes change, and change takes time. And like I've spent so much time trying to change, like learning the changes, but I'm like, you just got to do it. And then you realize you get to the other side and like, it's actually better than it was.
Yeah.
And most change is better than it was before. It's just you got to go through that like initial growing pain where it's like, this kind of sucks. But
which is funny you say that. So part of what I've done starting with the IDA is that the IDA, if I hadn't told you what the IDA did, you I'm sure didn't really know about it.
Nope.
You might know about it because your father's a board member, but that might be the end of it.
I actually forgot about that, but yes.
But I Listen, I'm born and raised here. I had no idea what the IDA did.
I've never actually, I swear to God, I never heard of it until you got the position.
So,
You didn't start, it'd been around.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Like-
my gosh. Yeah. 60 years.
Yeah.
So,
No, never knew it.
you know, and I think, you know, one of the things that my board members and I have talked a lot about and what we're trying to do is educate the general public on what we do, because we have some great stories to tell and haven't done a very good job of telling them. Hudson Headwaters is around because the IDA gave them a tax incentive. The Strand Theater has a $100,000 loan with us.
You saw BHSN,
BHSN,
Lake Forest,
absolutely. Yep. Lots of energy projects. Monahan Medical,
North Star.
Yeah. So I mean, these are all projects
Vilas, yeah.
that exist because, and Vilas actually has two different pilot projects on it. We work with TDC all the time. You know, Schoenbeck's is in one of those. Vaporstone Rail is in one of those. You know,
Yeah.
these are all like huge businesses in our community that have a huge impact on everybody. Schluter. I mean, that's a massively growing business.
Schluter's must be the biggest business now locally.
I hesitate to say that CVPH might be bigger.
It's still bigger.
Yeah.
Because I knew at one point it was always CVPH. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure where that stacked up. And like the prison was one of the biggest ones
Yeah,
too. But
it could be. I would have to.
from a manufacturing though, it's probably the biggest. Has it jumped over? I'm trying to think. Maybe with
I don't know if
big?
Nova Bus is bigger or
Novus?
Alstom. Yeah, Schluter is rapidly growing every day though. So
Yeah.
and they're building another building. So,
But it's cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, as
So-
long as it's in Clinton.
but yeah, I mean, these are really important projects that would not have happened if it weren't for the IDA being able to benefit them.
So when you look at something like, what's the vision of the IDA going forward? Like, has anything changed since you've come on? Have you guys
Yeah.
kind of pivoted? Any of your
Good question. So yeah, I wouldn't say pivot, but more like expansion. We did have a strategic planning session talking about what is, where do we see our role in this community? We have been very fortunate to have a couple of very successful projects, which the IDA makes money by taking a percentage of the total project itself. And we have benefited a couple of very, very large projects, which in turn gives us a healthy bank account, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're in which hasn't always been the case.
like financial buffer?
Yeah. So, it's our board members and myself felt it's incumbent on us to figure out, okay, we have all this money. What can we do to support our business community in return? Because, I mean, we don't personally make money off of it. So we want to, our job is to foster business and growth. One of the things we just did was through one of our subsidiaries, the Capital Resource Corporation, we gave money for the businesses that were impacted by Nova Bus to attend the APTA conference down in Florida, which gives them the opportunity to get contracts to supplement the Nova Bus closure. So I think it was, I want to say it was $50,000 we gave them to do that. We're looking at now as to how we can be a solution when it comes to housing. Housing is a huge problem. We don't have enough of it. We're not unique in that situation, not by state, by America. I mean, there's a housing shortage across the country. But we do, we do have the ability to purchase properties, conduct feasibility studies. So we're looking at identifying some properties with the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board. A lot of this is partnerships, right? Like working with partners.
Collaboration.
And figuring out, how our capital can be a part of that solution. So identifying places where we could seek housing developers to put up some housing because, traditionally IDAs don't get involved in housing. In fact, the state kind of isn't real happy about that, but I think they're starting to change their opinion on that because they realize how crucial housing is to economic development. We can put up another Micron in Plattsburgh today if we want, but if their employees don't have anywhere to live, they're not going to be able to come here. So, so the state has also put forth some pretty aggressive housing goals for communities. So we, the IDA community, feel that we can be a real solution in that and helping housing developers build properties that, can be affordable housing. And I say affordable in a very loose term because I know that can mean different things in different worlds.
Well, so this was, we're just bringing this up. So
Sure.
market wise. So this is one we do every month,
Yep.
but just kind of put in perspective. And I had this conversation with, was it Mike? Mike had talked about, Cashman had talked about, doing some planning, and they had
Yep.
some stuff for developing homes, and was kind of just talking about, like, is it affecting jobs? And he said not enough to like pinpoint it, like they're not coming because of that, but
Right.
he goes, that is definitely,
It could be.
yes.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's something we're aware of, and knowing that it's a slippery slope that could happen. But one of the things, which this is kind of telling, and I think, so I'm just going to read the numbers, and I'm nerding out on
Sorry.
real estate here, folks. So I apologize, but the new listings are only down a little bit. They're only 1.5% from last year, and this is year to date throughout
Yep.
the year. But what's more striking is that the amount of pendings are down 3, the amount of closed sales are down 15, and typically that wouldn't follow something like that. But I think what's happening is, we're getting holdups on homes. We're getting, obviously the listings are down slightly, but we're seeing, I think listings have started to kind of pick up a little bit, but there was definitely a lull at one point. I think
Yeah.
that's when they spiked. The days on market are up higher, but the crazy thing is that the average price point is still up. The median price point is still up.
I see that.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it is like you take like the interest rates.
Yeah.
When the interest rates spike, like that makes borrowing more expensive,
Yep.
and it typically deflates or typically takes buyers out of the market, which it still is. But
Or you're buying a lesser of a home.
or you're buying less of a
Yeah.
home, but at the end of the day, supply and demand is what drives price. It's
Yeah.
not the interest rate. So when
Yeah.
you look at, like, we have, basically it comes full circles.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have homes. And for the average price to be up 6%, or even just take the median to be up 4%, which historically over the last like 3 years has gone up tremendously, and it's still going up. But the crazy thing is the amount of sold homes down 15% is massive. Like that's
Right.
that's a lot of homes. And I mean,
Right.
it's especially in an area where we only have, I think, like 700 homes that sell a year. I mean,
Right.
that's quite a bit. Now regarding, getting someone up here, more on the housing front, like how's that process take to get like an out of area developer, maybe someone local? Do they usually have to rely on some type of grant? Or do they have to, or is it like a company out of like
that's what
Boston?
we're-
It's like,
well,
we're coming in and just
That's what we're trying to figure out right now. And when you talk about grants, grants have gotten increasingly competitive. Like you don't just send in, a Word document and hope that, for the best. If you don't have a feasibility study in your hand from an engineer, you can already kiss that grant goodbye. Like it's just not, you're not going to get it. They're too competitive. So what we're looking at doing right now is partnering and doing a feasibility study to identify specific locations that might work as housing that we can then use to present to a potential developer. But we've got to figure out what's feasible first. Where is it feasible? What's it going to cost? All those different things, because you can't just look at, throw a dart on the wall and say, oh, you develop housing here. They need to know that it's going to be a return for their investment as well.
Yeah, and well, also in builders, is like the margins are so small right now. If you were to do, if someone's going in and just says buy a house, and I know I'm putting more money in than what it's going to be worth, and
Right.
you're making it for your personal investment, that's fine. If you're a developer going in, you want to have some type of return, and when you're
Right.
going in, it's like there's the margins are squeezed because of the
Yep.
costs. Like I get it. Like business sense, they're not going to do it, but it's kind of like unfortunately, it's like this. People are chasing their own tails and can't really get out of the way. And
Chicken
it's,
and the egg kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Catch-22. And hopefully it happens.
But that's where I hope the IDA can be useful.
Yeah.
Once we have a feasibility study in hand, then we can figure out, is that something that we can help?
Yeah,
with?
I actually didn't know that. Learned something new today.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you need development, but I never even thought of like having some kind of group come in and help,
Yep.
more of on the public sector. So now regarding work with the airport, like I mean, obviously the airport's one of those things I talk about when you stretch back the time horizon. Like was the airport around 15 years ago? 10 years ago?
I think it opened around 15 years ago. You're testing my knowledge.
Yeah,
on that
but I
one.
mean, like, I remember the old Clinton County Airport,
Right,
which was
right.
basically a little hangar
yeah,
with a small
the
plane.
Plattsburgh International Airport was a massive New York State grant that was work of a lot of people prior to my tenure. But of course, people like Gary Douglas were heavily involved in that. Mike Zerlo, Ronnie Brown at the time was the county deputy manager. Can't remember what his title was at the time, but and the legislature, took on a lot of responsibility to get that up and going. And given that it's part of the former Air Force Base, it has a little bit more regulations that you have to worry about.
Yeah, I'm trying to see when this came up, like, or what year it started, because I'm 85% in 2013, so it's older than that.
Yeah.
Let's look at the former, has been owned by Clinton County since 2002. Oh, right here. Massive facility has been upgraded June 2007. Passenger service began. Okay. See, it doesn't seem that old to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm just getting old, but
yeah, unfortunately that might
that's
be
probably
the case.
more the
I'm
truth
sorry
than
to tell
anything.
you. Yeah, and but it's continues to grow a lot. But like I said, not just the passenger service, but because of all the airport facilities that we have there that were vacated by the Air Force Base, we have turned that into industrial development. When I say we, I mean the Clinton County Legislature.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you go down just what is that, Arizona Avenue? There's quite a bit on there. Oh my gosh,
now. Yeah, and a company, I don't know if you've heard of them, Beta Technologies.
Yeah, absolutely.
rapidly growing company that has
is Beta
growing their footprint significantly.
Is Beta on Arizona? Mm-hmm. Okay, because
just off of it, but yes.
So Beta Technologies,
they're actually inside the gate, what we call inside the gate. So
okay, I remember reading about them like years ago when they first started, and kind of like the story with Kyle and like how they founded.
Tell you what, I wish I bought stock on those guys when they first started.
It's incredible, and now you're looking at like all. I mean, they're getting a lot of government, grants or not grants, but whatever bids and stuff, and I mean, it's all electric planes, right? At this point,
they're a little unique because they focus on cargo. So they're not focused on transporting people; they're focused on transporting goods. But it's going to take decades and decades to transport people by electric aircraft. It's just not.
But when you take like distance, though, they don't fly very far, so they're kind of doing like these little puddle jump, like
But it's further than you would think.
Okay.
And actually, there's a secondary part of their business, so that they're focusing on too, on top of their electric aircraft is charging infrastructure. So their batteries in the electric aircraft. I hope if they're listening, I hope I'm telling their story correctly. But
so I got the Wikipedia
yeah,
parody.
Right. But so the batteries that are inside those planes, regulation wise, once they hit the 80% threshold, they have to remove them from the plane. For safety reasons, but there's still 80% of that battery left. So what they're doing is turning them into basically self-sustaining superchargers for cars. And they've placed them at various spots around the country so that people can come and supercharge their car and it doesn't pull from the grid, which as we make this move for more electric cars is going to be huge because we already know the grid doesn't really have what it needs to sustain itself with this massive move for electricity. So that's a really cool venture that they're on as well. So, but they have a pretty large footprint at the airport and are looking at expanding that even further. So we're really, really happy to have them as one of our tenants, and they're really doing some amazing things and have some really good goals as to what they want to see here in Plattsburgh.
So I was going to say, how does it come? I mean, obviously they're right across the lake, and that's their headquarters in Burlington, right at the airport, right? In Burlington?
They are.
And I know, and this is the very little knowledge I have on it, but I think the Aliyah, it was like the first air flight, or the first one they made, and that, I don't know if it's still there. Was that Plattsburgh for a while?
So no, it's down in Eglin Air Force Base right now. So the military is testing it for their purposes now because it's gone through all the testing they need to do, but now the military needs to test it on their end because they're looking to purchase a substantial amount of them.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I mean, I like companies began using energy battery. Wow. It's funny how like these companies, when they start popping up, and like how I'm almost done the I'm almost done the Elon Musk book that just came out by Walter Isaacson. And same thing, when you start like listening to how these guys talk about the future and what they're doing, it's like, it's incredible where their thoughts are.
And this backstory is actually incredible. So it kind of all started because I can't think of her last name. Martine, can't think of her last name. Used to Sirius XM owner, sold it for tons and tons of money.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. And her child had needed an organ transplant, and so she's one of the ones that opened the like organ farms, so to speak, because at the end of the day, we don't have enough organ donations. There's just not enough people to sustain that. So if we can find ways to utilize animals to do organ donation, she was responsible for putting the first pig heart into a human. Her company was.
Yeah.
But then she started thinking, this is great, but if I'm taking these organs and shipping them all around the country and they're putting pollutants into the air, well, then I'm just as irresponsible because, that's not good business. So she worked with Kyle Clark, who was already trying to look at developing this, and became one of the first backers of getting this company off the ground.
Yeah, and I remember reading an article, and it was a pretty lengthy article, the one I read, and it went into her background. Yeah, it's good memory. I just, but I just think it's cool, and then to see that they're coming over here and doing stuff in Plattsburgh and utilizing the space here.
We have we're very fortunate here because this used to be an Air Force base, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, our airspace is not as busy as Burlington. So they have the freedom to do a lot of testing here that they don't and never will have in Burlington. And, the runway is massive. So
I was gonna say it's over a mile, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's one
huge.
that could land a space shuttle, right? Was that the...
So I've heard mixed.
Is that like a
might
folklore?
Be, I think it is. I said that in front of the airport director the other day, and he kind of laughed, and I'm not entirely sure that that's true.
I think it's said so much now that people are like, that's Plattsburgh, of course. But so
I think it probably could land here, but I don't think that it's like third in line
ideal
or something.
place to live. Yeah, third in line. That's what I heard. I was like, this is these fake stuff.
Yeah.
But so when you look at the airport, is there any? There's seems like there's room for expansion at the airport, or no?
Oh yeah,
I was going to say because I've heard rumblings that there might be flights to London. I've heard rumblings there's going to be flights to.
Oh, I don't know if I'd say that, but
actually, I'll tell you off air who told me that. Maybe just wishful thinking, but
yeah, no, yes, we're our airport director, Chris Craig, works very closely with the legislature and airline consultants and the chamber to always seek new air service, right? We would take American Airlines tomorrow if they wanted to come here. But, the reality is the airline industry is kind of a mess right now. And they don't, the reason we lost the last one was not anything to do with Plattsburgh. It was really just they had to look at their business model. And
which
it was,
company was that again?
SkyWest, I think it was, right? They were flying into DC.
Was Sky okay? Because we just got Contour, which goes to Philly.
Yep, goes to Philly. Yep. So but it was no reflection on Plattsburgh or the business that we were doing here. It just they only have so many people, just like everybody, right? Workforce development, workforce is huge. It's probably the number one thing people are hearing right now. Workforce and housing. It's probably the two things I hear all the time. And when we just don't have enough people. So the airline is no different to any other industry. They don't have enough people. That's why flights end up getting canceled. That's why baggages gets lost because they don't have enough people to move the luggage. It's a reality. So, we're always looking for new air service, but, it has to make sense for that airline company to come here. JetBlue just pulled out Burlington. So it's not like they're going to come here tomorrow. And, we are, there is a proximity here with Montreal. And we're very fortunate because we have a lot of Canadian customers that come down here. We don't get a lot of cross-lake traffic. We get a lot of Canadian customers is what we get.
Yep.
So.
And it's, I guess when you look at that from, is there any issue with like losing flights, or is it pretty like if you lost something, you could try to get something back? It just might be at a different hub.
And that's what we did, right?
Yeah.
SkyWest pulled out. We got Contour. They go to Philly as opposed to DC.
Yeah, the same concept. And actually going to Orlando is the same concept, really.
Yeah, actually, as a travel agent on the side.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I am thrilled about that announcement because, not that, no disrespect to Allegiant, they're a great airline. I have a tendency to believe that a lot more people use them for other Florida locations. Flying into Sanford isn't exactly an ideal Orlando location.
How far is that from Orlando?
It's like an hour.
Oh, it is? Wow, okay.
Yeah, by the time And, so as somebody who specializes in Disney, going right into Orlando is a big thing, especially because Disney has transportation there that you can use.
Yeah. My sisters just ran the half marathon there like 2 days ago.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that Sagan did that. Yes, I did see that.
Yes. Oh, Sagan and Mara went and did it. And then my wife was at... I've never been to Disney, so my wife was at Epcot. I know I shouldn't say that. Say that to you. Admit it to you. But Gina went down to I think Epcot. She had a conference in Orlando, which would have been great had she had that flight.
Yeah.
But she went to Epcot one day, so she's like, "It's great down here." I'm like,
it is.
I'll bring my kids one day, but I'm like, I'm not a theme park person, but I'm sure I'll love it. She said Epcot was cool because there's it's like worlds or countries.
Yeah. Well, so. So Disney to me is an experience. It really isn't a theme park. Universal theme park, Disney experience.
Are they different?
Very different. Yep.
But they're not the same company.
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
See,
Competitors.
I'm
Competitors.
Oh,
Yep.
they are. Okay.
Yep.
Are they
Yep.
both in Orlando?
Yep. They are.
Disney.
Yep.
I really don't know a lot. I like the Disney movies. I don't know a lot about the actual resorts. So
You're gonna get me on a tangent.
no, that's fine. This is why Molly loves podcasts now, because we can go anywhere with these.
Right.
So yeah, I do want to talk about Disney for a sec. So Disney World is in Orlando, and it's made up of multiple parks?
Disney actually is its own city. It's in Lake Buena Vista, and they have their own
zip code.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Disney. Walt Disney did that on purpose, so that he didn't have to, think about when we put up a building in the town of Plattsburgh, right? They have to go through zoning board of appeals. They have to go through secret process. There's all these approvals they have to go through. Well, when Disney wants to throw up a new hotel, they don't have to wait. They just do it.
Because they own the city.
Basically, yes.
Wow. I did not know that.
There have been some controversial things lately that the state government is trying to claw that back. I'll be surprised if that ever really happens. We'll see.
I was going to say, I don't think you want Disney to live in the state. Wow.
But yeah, so, Universal to me is a theme park. Great one at that, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. Wonderful.
That's it. Okay, so that's not part of Disney.
No. Disney does have 4 parks within its theme, within its park.
Okay.
You have Magic Kingdom, you have Epcot, you have Hollywood Studios, and you have Animal Kingdom. They also have Disney Springs, which is like a shopping center / restaurant area.
Gina told me that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not like a theme park.
No, you don't need any ticket to go in there, but
Okay.
there is a ton of stuff to do there.
Okay. What was the second one you said?
I said Epcot, I think.
You said Epcot,
Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom.
Wait, Animal Kingdom? What's the other kingdom?
Magic Kingdom.
They're different.
Yes.
Oh.
Magic
okay.
Kingdom's where you see like the classic castle, right?
Magic Kingdom. Okay.
Yep,
Is that the
okay.
main one, like the
Yep.
flagship?
That's
Okay.
that would be the original park.
Okay.
Okay. That's where Cinderella's castle is. That's where a lot of the, colloquial, It's a Small World, Peter Pan, your classic
Okay.
kind of characters. Epcot was the second edition. That was kind of what Walt Disney had envisioned for like this like self-sustaining community.
Okay.
And oh God, I should know what it stands for. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, it's an acronym?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, right. Epcot.
Yeah, but I can't remember. Oh, there it is. Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. So
Wow.
and so that's actually 2 parks within itself too, because you have the future showcase. So you have that's where you see the ball, right? There's a little ride in there, which they're renovating. They have a new Guardians of the Galaxy ride there. There's this,
Wow.
there's a really interesting, I'm the only one that thinks it's interesting, but it's like this ride where you go through like these gardens and they have like all these weird ways of growing different vegetables. So this is all like the futuristic sort of. And then if you cross the bridge, over there, you'll go into what they call the World Showcase, and that is where the term "drinking around the world" comes in, because there's like countries. So you'll like walk. Here's Mexico.
So you just like bar crawl across the
But
world.
yeah, it's great.
Wow. So is it ride? Like, is Disney rides?
There
And I know
are
I've
rides.
I've never
there
been.
are rides.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't,
the Guardians of the Galaxy ride that they just put up in Epcot is like a fantastic roller coaster. But it's also like experiences. So like you'll walk into that's the England showcase right there. I mean, you really feel like you're walking through a street in England. Disney is very, very careful about making things seem like you're not going to be in Morocco and be able to look over and see England from where you are. They try to like make things very experiential. Whereas like if you're in Universal, you can be in Jurassic Park and look over and see the Harry Potter castle. That's not going to happen at Disney World. They make it very.
So is the World Showcase? This is Epcot.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Hollywood Studios is another park, famous for the Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land.
Oh, my kids love Toy Story.
Yep. And then you have Animal Kingdom, which is kind of what it says. It's it's very animal focused. So you have like a safari there, and you have they created Pandora is there from the Pandora movies, the Avatar movies, excuse me, and Lion King, Nemo, So
The Tower of Terror. I've heard of that.
Yep.
That's in
Hollywood Studios.
Hollywood Studios. Okay. So this is basically taking all the movies and turning them into real life.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the which I always like this kind of like have you ever seen the map that Walt Disney created?
Yes.
And that's actually pretty inventive.
Yes.
And I've actually used it.
And they still own so much property in Florida.
This hasn't even been developed.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love this. So this is Disney World.
Yes.
So is Disneyland
California.
same owners?
Yes. So that was it was built before Disney World. But Walt made a mistake there in that he didn't really buy enough property. So the second that started to become a success, things went up all around him, and they quickly lost the ability to really expand or do anything further there. So that's why in Florida he bought this huge swamp that nobody else wanted and developed the heck out of it. You want to talk about economic development? Talk about vision.
Well, the movie. I think the movie was it with Tom Hanks. That was a pretty good movie.
That was
it called?
Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that one. But wow, I learned way more about. So this is all Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. Thousands and thousands of acres.
So like Disney Wilderness Lodge. That's not part. That's Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
So these are all pretty far apart.
They own those. They own most of those properties. So Disney has increasingly made it more and more difficult to stay off property. They have really cater to the people that stay on their property. So
Wide World of Sports, ESPN.
Yep.
So that's part of Disney too.
It is. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, when COVID happened, the NBA basically
they played in the bubble, right?
They played in the bubble there, and they basically like took over. I think it was Animal Kingdom Lodge, and like they just like you couldn't like book any rooms there because they were totally taken by the NBA at the time.
And Animal Kingdom's right here. Okay, Kingdom World.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Yeah, blows my mind. How many times have you been there?
Oh,
I mean, like enough that you like know all this back of your hand.
Yeah. Let's see. Kira is 16, so I had to have been like 18 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's your favorite place to go?
I've traveled a whole bunch of places, but yes, there's always a special place in my heart for Disney because it's different every time you go.
See, that's like, it's so wild. Because I always think like, and I know this is bad, I think of like Great Escape.
Yeah,
or
no.
like maybe another theme park that I ever went to. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm just going to sit in line and like watch, like just bake in the sun. And
So no disrespect to my counterparts down in Queensbury, but I don't like the Great Escape, and it's probably because I'm Disney spoiled. So
yeah, it could be. I have never been, so I'm just like, I'm good. I don't want to go Great Escape.
Yeah.
I'll bring my kids, but I'm like,
Yeah, I tell clients all the time, I firmly believe nothing is worth wasting more than 30 minutes of your life in any line. Like the line A will die down, or B, just go again. Time is money, So
yeah. Well, and so when it says like art of animation, there's stuff where it's just pure. Maybe that's not even.
That's a resort.
Resort.
Yep.
Oh, so the resort is different than a park.
Yeah, the resorts are the hotels. Yep.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yep.
So, but when you go down, there's like you said, you can like learn stuff down there. So it's not just rides and like.
Oh God, no. Yeah, there's a lot of like experiential things to do.
Because everybody likes it. I'm like, I just don't. But everybody's got to go. I'm like, I would go.
Well, there are
sure,
people. Listen, there's it's not everybody's cup of tea certainly, but I think if you don't like Disney, I don't think that you probably didn't have a travel agent, and B, there are ways to do it so that you really enjoy yourself. Because I think what people do, because Disney's not exactly a cheap vacation. You can do it on a budget, but it's not exactly cheap. And for a lot of people, it is. They think they're only going to go once. They're not like me and go 18 times. So they think they have to shove everything in and get as much done as they can, but people forget that it is vacation and you should enjoy yourself and you should relax a little bit.
So in order to go see like most of that stuff, realistically, like, can you do it in like a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like you do a day.
I would say you need a minimum of 5 days.
Okay. And where's Universal from here? Like really close?
You'd have to back out a little. It's more towards like Kissimmee area.
Am I going the right way?
Oh, yep, right there, Universal Orlando.
So much smaller.
Yes, its footprint is significantly smaller. Yes.
So that's all it is. Oh, I say all it is. Obviously, It's big, but I'm saying it's just this.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
They have. I will say their accommodations, their hotels are fabulous.
Hard Rock, Universal City Walk. So these are all like little things.
Yes,
that's
the
obviously
City
Harry
Walk,
Potter.
The City Walk would be like comparative to like Disney Springs, significantly smaller, but it's basically a shopping area. Then you have Universal Islands of Adventure. That's their like a park, and within that they have they have the Jurassic Park rides are there, the Marvel superhero stuff is there.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is in both worlds. So you have Universal Studios and then you have Universal Islands of Adventure. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter is over there. So when you go to that Harry Potter, it's more like the London section of Harry Potter. Like are you familiar with the Harry Potter movies? Okay, so like more like going to Hogsmeade is the other one, basically.
Okay.
So, that one's more of the London-y type one. And there's, different things in each of them. So, great, fantastic rides. The downside that I think to Universal is it is more of a theme park. So there's a lot of thrill rides. Disney has some thrill rides, but not the way Universal does. So if you're a thrill seeker, you want to go to Universal. There's a new Jurassic Park roller coaster that is probably the most intense roller coaster I've ever been on. It was fantastic.
Oh, Spider-Man. So when you go, so you would say like Disney's, is it more for kids or is it like?
Disney I wouldn't say it's more for kids, but it has more for little kids to do.
Okay.
As compared to Universal.
This is wild.
Yeah.
I've never actually done this. I've never like looked at these things.
And don't forget, Disney is slowly clawing back their rights on the Marvel stuff. So, that will change for Universal going forward.
So does Universal own the rights to all that now?
It's an interesting thing. So if you go to California, actually, there's a lot more Marvel stuff in Disneyland. They had some sort of agreement that when Universal had the rights to most of the Marvel stuff, when they started negotiating, Disney somehow got a hold of a bunch of it. So they can have it in California, but they can't have it in Florida. But they are slowly clawing their rights back on that. So, there's going to be more... The newer stuff, like Guardians of the Galaxy, they can put up in Disney World. But like Spider-Man, that's going to be a fight for a long time, I think.
Oh, so it is owned by Walt Disney Company.
Yeah, they own the rights to Marvel. But Universal still has some rights to it.
So it must have been old agreements from years past.
Yeah. But eventually I think you'll see, like there's the Hulk roller coaster in Universal.
Yeah.
Great roller coaster. But I think eventually that will have to be rethemed.
So like Marvel, we've been watching like Spider-Man. My kids love it. I love Spider-Man. I'm not a big like Batman. What's
DC.
that? DC. I don't know any
I'm
of those.
raised by a comic nerd and married to one, so.
so like people are like Marvel versus DC, right?
Yeah.
Like, is there one that's better than the other?
I prefer Marvel.
Okay, I think I do too, because I know more of the
but
characters.
But my dad was more of a DC Comics person growing up. But movie-wise, I would definitely say the Marvel ones are better, but I probably just offended a whole bunch of DC comic people.
Yeah, I don't even know who DC
So Batman, Superman.
Yeah, they're not as cool.
Catwoman, that universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Aquaman, right?
I don't even know half those. I mean, I do.
Aquaman, yeah.
Oh, the Flash, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Aquaman. Yeah, not as cool. No, definitely Marvel.
I'm a huge Iron Man fan. Like I love the Iron Man
Captain
movies.
America, Thor, Hulk.
You can't. I'm a Marvel.
Marvel, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if we talked about this last time. You wrote down Wizard of Oz is an interest. Did we talk about that?
We could have.
I
have a huge Wizard of Oz collection.
What's the fascination with Wizard of Oz? Because my kids actually really enjoy. I'm talking like a 1930 something movie. Yep. They love the old movie and they'll watch it all.
Yeah.
And I'll make some comments after that. Okay. But yes.
Did you take them to the NCCS production of it?
No.
Oh, that's a pity. My daughter's starred in it. So.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Was she Dorothy?
She was the lion.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
I remember. Did you do? You weren't part of Shazy Music Theater, or were you?
I did a few productions, but
so years ago they did.
I had a really big role as a plate in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, you were in it. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure. I thought you were a part of it.
My debut as a plate.
You got to start somewhere, Molly. That's great. That was actually a great scene. It was Be Our Guest, right? But I remember, I think it was like 90. It was like late 90s. They did The Wizard of Oz, and I think Jason Borey was the lion.
Yep,
and there's a couple other guys. I'm sure I would. If I found out who they are now, I would know the people. But that was huge.
Merritt.
Was Merritt one of them?
He was the Tin Man.
No, was he?
Yeah, absolutely. 120%.
That's so funny.
One of your own.
I did not know that. See, that was after my first time ever meeting Merritt. He was in Children of Eden, which is
Oh,
still
yep.
to this day my favorite CMT.
Wasn't that? I know.
It was the best one.
So underrated.
Very underrated.
Such a great show.
That was the only one I believe, and I could be wrong because I've been
loved that
removed from
show.
about 10 years, but that was the only time I think they opened up a second weekend.
Really?
Because they sold out like all four or five
it was
performances.
such a good show.
And they actually,
and I had a lot of friends in that show.
Yeah, and
so,
we're extending it out one more, and
Yeah.
blew up. And
Yeah.
I think, but Merritt had a really good role in that play, and yeah, I forgot what he did, but that was like the first time I knew who Merritt was.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't remember who
Less of a beard back then.
Scarecrow was, but it was Liz Fortin was Dorothy. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
great memory. You didn't go? You went to Northeastern, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say because I always get like Merritt was a Shazy guy, but then like Jason was Northeastern,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you get that whole
crew. Yeah.
Well, Liz Fortin was a Shazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I remember, but yes, those were like there's some great shows for
Honestly,
a while in CMT.
I know. So yeah, but when you're talking Wizard of Oz, so like I said, my daughter starred as the lion.
Love it.
Which Jason directed, actually. So, but I don't know. I think it was just something when I was little. I really enjoyed the show, and I just kind of became like my thing. And now I have like this almost scary, huge collection of Wizard of Oz paraphernalia. So, yeah.
How? So the original film was 1939. That was probably the first big blockbuster hit? Was there bigger movies before then? Or first in color?
I don't know. So that was and I'm actually looking to it was MGM, which actually
Lion Roar.
Yes, and what's funny, so it used to be Hollywood Studio. Now it's Hollywood Studios and Disney, but it was formerly MGM. They called it MGM. And I don't know how they transition, but Disney still has some rights to the Wizard of Oz in some realm. But in any case, that was MGM's response to Gone with the Wind. I'm not sure actually who did Gone with the Wind.
Read it right there. The first thing, the director stopped. Wait. What does that say? It says the film was primarily directed by Victor Fleming, and then he left to take over for Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
So you do both of those?
I guess must be they stole them because when the other company who did that, I'm trying to see what company did it. But
which one? Oh, sorry, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Whoever did it,
Yeah.
The MGM was like,
Oh,
"Well,
right, no,
we need to compete with this, right?"
Right here, MGM and Selznick International Pictures.
I wonder if
That might be someone different now.
So that was kind of like, well, we have to put something out too. So it's not, we're not gonna beat Gone with the Wind, which they didn't, by the way.
How about that? 1939, Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz came out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Gone with the Wind did win all the awards, but I think arguably Wizard of Oz is probably more memorable. I don't think, like your kids know who Wizard of Oz is, right?
Yeah.
Our kids don't know. I would argue that some people my generation don't know what Gone with the Wind is.
I had to watch Gone with the Wind. I say I had to. It makes it sound like it's bad. We watched Gone with the Wind. I want to say
It's
it was
long.
like 5th grade. Yeah, we watched it like over the course of a week.
Yeah.
And it was, I want to say it was 5th grade. And at the time, like 5th grade watching that probably didn't hit as much as if I was to turn around and watch it now.
Right.
But I do have like a little, like Scarlett O'Hara. I remember that. And I remember Rhett Butler.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there was, which is the 12th Academy Awards. Like, that's wild that when those started.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wizard of Oz, though, like, you have collections of like, just collectibles.
Yeah, a ton of them.
Okay. Like, you have a room in your house.
Literally, we call it, so we have several Echo shows, right, throughout the house, and obviously have a few smart lights, right? So if we want to turn the light on in that room, we go, Alexa, please turn the Oz room light on. So
It's like labeled above the door, the Oz room.
Yeah.
So one of the things I actually looked up recently, which is, again, I don't know when movies really started kind of jumping out, but the Twister scene in The Wizard of Oz
really forward for its time.
Yeah. I remember watching that, and I said, this was recently, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, that is pretty damn good. This is almost a 100-year-old movie.
Well, the other thing, too, is the way it changed from black and white to Technicolor. That was pretty advanced for its time as well.
Also, one of my favorite things to do, which is totally different, but when you play the Pink Floyd album, Dark Side of the Moon.
I've heard, yes.
Like, have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't, but I have heard about it.
You know, it's actually funny. So back in the day, this was, as a curious child, I ended up.
Curious
I was like, I heard about it. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I have The Wizard of Oz on VHS, and I have an album. I have a CD of Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
So I ended up putting the movie in, and I don't know where I found this. And I almost go back to like, when did Google just hit 25 years old? But when I actually started like Googling stuff, like how to do stuff online, I'm like, I don't feel like I did that in high school, but maybe I did.
Probably was like Yahoo or something.
Ask Jeeves or something. Like, so I ended up getting, like, I figured it out that, like, the second line, Rory, you start the video, you start the music. So then I had a CD player, like a boom box sitting there, and I popped the CD in and I watched it. And I was like, and it was pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Of course, like, I might have been off like half a second, but I was to the point, I'm like, this is wild. Now you can just go on YouTube and just type it in,
and it'll do it.
Or it's just like watch a video. So I'm like, I had to slum it back then. I was like really trying to, but it actually is pretty trippy how close some of those things are.
No pun intended.
Yes, no, I wasn't tripping on it, but I was like, this is really wild. But when you look at The Wizard of Oz, like, she was like 17 or 18 when they made it, and when you start going back to like the old lady that comes in and wants the dog, she was probably 35.
Yeah, Margaret Hamilton.
Is that who it was?
Yep. She was typecast after that, actually. She never really got another big role.
1902, so it was what, 1920, 39. So she was 37.
Yep.
Okay, but that's all she did.
Well, and actually, did you know that they really preferred Shirley Temple for that role?
This one?
Yeah,
Wicked
but
Witch?
she was... No, for Dorothy.
Oh, Dorothy, okay.
But she was under contract, so they couldn't get out of it. So Judy Garland was their second pick. Significantly older looking than what Shirley Temple looks like at the time. And actually, if you L. Frank Baum's version, Dorothy's supposed to be a little girl.
Okay.
And but and actually they tried her as a blonde too. They did a bunch of different tests with her wigs, and they ended up.
Oh,
with
she
that
wore a
one.
wig in that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but Judy Garland actually was treated horribly.
That's what I heard.
Oh yeah.
Was that from cast or production or crew or?
It was. I think that the way things were back then, like they gave those kids amphetamines to stay awake, and like
because she was, I think, a little. I would say a little, but I think she
16,
was. Yeah, I don't think she was an adult, like legal adult.
Yeah.
Who played? So this way, I always the person who played. Let me see, The Wizard of Oz, Frank Morgan.
Yep.
In the guard. Yeah, so he plays like 3 different things.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So Professor, he's the guy with the crystal ball in the beginning. That's the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
But he's also the guy that's the guard at the door.
Yep.
And he runs back and becomes the Oz.
Yep. And then he, the horse of a different color. He's the one in the seat there too.
Yes. Okay. Because I watched it. I'm like, who is who in this? Because I know they all play double roles.
Yep.
Aunt M only plays Aunt M. Based on this.
I was going to say, so in the play version, Aunt M is Glinda. That didn't happen, obviously, in the movie production, but in the play version, that is what it's supposed to be.
Glinda's the good witch.
Yep.
And then Terry Toto was a female. Doc.
Yes.
Fun fact, huh?
Yep.
She was owned and wow, okay. Sorry, that was just, you had it written down, so I just wanted to ask. I'm like, my kids had just watched it, and I saw like the Twister, and I'm like, the Twister is so advanced. And what they did was it was wireframe, and it was something where they had it on the ground, like a bag or something, and they spun it. It was like a burlap bag. Yeah. And they just spun it, but it was so far back because they were using different camera angles. And it was wild.
It's really cool.
Which I thought was good. My other thing, just because these are fun, and I didn't get these last time, and you put them on our list now. Things you consider yourself knowledgeable on, you put wine down.
Yeah, of course.
So, like, are you like one of like those connoisseurs of wine, or are you just like, I like to drink wine?
Well, both.
Okay.
But
I love wine. So that's what I was wondering.
So I say that because I sold. I did that traveling vineyard. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
It's basically like wine Tupperware for wine.
Okay.
You know, like you go to people's houses.
Is it like Scout and Cellar stuff? Is it Scout and Cellar?
Maybe.
It's another brand. Okay, sorry, keep going.
So part of what, so what you do is the company would send me, 5 different wines to bring to somebody's house, and I would help them. So pair things, and I'd sell the wine and I'd make commission on it. Right. So, always got to have a side hustle. Right.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, you had to like do this like little seminar, and I would go to seminars every year that were taught by grand sommeliers to get you to understand and know more about wines and what goes with wines and why, why different foods go with that and whatnot. So
So you did a lot of pairing.
Yes.
So what is that? So first off, I do love wine. Like it's probably one of my favorite.
Who doesn't?
It's one of my favorite like
Activities.
activities. It's really how it really gets my day going. No, but I think if I had to, when you go to like alcoholic drinks, like I'm not a big like mixed drink person. I'm not.
Either. Yeah.
I like kind of
I'm not a big cocktail. I'm not a big beer person, but
like
give
I
me
like
give me a
craft
good
beer.
bottle of wine. We're good to go.
Yeah, like I like craft beer, but I also like wine, and wine is the only alcoholic drink that I can have with food. Because I'll get a drink, and if food comes out and I have a drink, I won't touch the drink. I'll finish the food, and then at that point, I'm like, I don't really want a drink anymore.
Right.
And then I usually, because I'm old, I get a coffee at the end of my meal because I like a coffee at my end of my meal instead of like dessert. But I find wine, like if I get wine, like the other day I made a steak. It was so good, and then I was like,
do you have a good like Cabernet?
Pulled that out.
Yep.
And as I was sitting, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, you know what? The steak is too good. I went and got a glass of wine, and I ended up having leftovers the next night, and I had the rest of the wine. So it was good.
So the thing that's interesting about wine, though, is the wine enhances the taste of your food. It does not the other way around. So, I mean, it might make your wine taste better, but I'll tell you what, and you can pair it with anything. You want a really good, fun read? It's called Burgundies and Big Macs. Great book.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Written by a sommelier who has been hired by a whole bunch of different companies, and she does a column, I think, in the New York Times, and she teaches people how to pair like things with regular foods.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm already intrigued.
Oh, it's such a good book. But like pairing things like peanut butter with a Shiraz, right? Try it. Just try it.
It's good.
Tell me I'm wrong. Like,
really?
How do you try it? Like a Reese's peanut butter cup with Shiraz. Oh my gosh.
First off, how do you do this? The research for that book. Like you're like, we're just gonna eat and drink
basically
our faces off for the next year.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like yeah, and you're just like with peanut butter cups. Like,
grand sommeliers are very rare because it's not just about like you have to have like a really good palate. Like you go through years and years of training, and part of it is innate. Like if you're not born with that kind of palate, you're never going to make it in the industry. That's why there's so few of them. But yeah, wine really does make a difference in the taste of your food.
What's your
and can equally have a bad effect on your food if you have the wrong wine paired with something.
Yes, and I also find there's so many different flavors of wine, and the cool.
Tell you get this book. So like I have it on a electronic version, right?
Yeah.
So say I'm making chili, right? I type in chili, the find option, find chili, and it'll take me to that section of the book. And at the end of each of the segments where she talks about different types of food, she'll list 3 different types of wines where you can get them, and they're like by 3. She'll have an expensive one, a medium one, and a lower price
budget
one.
Yeah,
the budget wine, so that you can figure out what you want to serve with it. Great book.
The amount of times I Google like it will make something decent, like what goes good with fish? What goes good with and I got like I know like whites and reds kind of, but then when you're really diving in, like I'm making like a good like red sauce some dinner. It's like okay, like. Is it Pinot Noir? Is it a Cab? Is it like I always know like a steak and Cab kind of like are perfect marriage, but it's fun trying to figure out that, and sometimes
I cook with wine all the time. Sometimes I even put it in the food. No kidding, it's an old joke, but had to say it. But you can also like if you have a bottle of wine that might have gone a little bad, save it because that's actually really good for cooking with. So like I put that in like my spaghetti sauces if I'm doing like a pot roast, if I'm doing like a chili. I put wine in a lot of different foods, usually just reds, but like doing a risotto, you need a good dry white for that. Okay. So my husband and I are a little bit of foodies. So.
Yeah, well, I've done it with steak before where I've like marinated.
And admittedly,
in wine.
he's a better cook than I am.
Okay, do you guys both like? That's the other thing too. If I had to, besides grilling, like if I'm grilling, I usually have a beer. Like it comes with the territory. But I'm saying but you normally like it just like prepping food. Like I do like a glass of wine and just like you just sip at it. You just and I think there's something
you loosen up. Like you put some tunes on.
Yes,
because I really enjoy cooking. Like I really really enjoy cooking.
Do you do it often?
On the weekends mostly.
So that's.
Like, during the week, it's the shuffle with the kids and work. And so, it's not usually gourmet stuff. But on the weekends, I usually dive in. I made a phenomenal homemade chicken parm this weekend.
See,
great.
That's the thing that I miss is like, I actually, you know when you get those Saturdays and they're like kind of a lazy Saturday, you have no place to be, and you're not like doing it. I mean, again, I have kids. We don't go out. So, but it's one where like we really have nothing going on. And like those are the nights where I'm like, we're just chilling tonight. Like I want to make something.
Yeah.
Good. And then I like, well, in the morning, I'll like look up a recipe, have 0 ingredients. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go right to the grocery store, buy everything. So I come home and I'm like, it's my Lego set for building a dinner. I have all of it right here. And then I end
You're
up
like, I just spent $80 on groceries. We probably could have bought it out.
it totally works. Exactly. But then you sit there and you start like doing stuff and you get
it's
like
fun.
music, wine. But I find it's a process and it's super chill.
Yep.
You're just hanging out and I don't feel I'm rushed. I get to enjoy it. And I think most people, this is what I try to in my life, and like, you know, everybody's just got a million things going on. It's like really trying to like simplify and like really enjoy
and, you know,
quiet time.
For us, I mean, I've been married for 18 years now. So, yeah, I had to think about that for a second. But you know, it's also, especially now that our kids are a little bit older, it's a way for my husband and I both enjoy it, and it's something for us to do together. Yeah. And something we both really enjoy doing. And so, you know, it's about connection and just like having fun, and you know, pouring that. He's not a big wine drinker, but he'll pour like rum or something.
That's fine. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah.
But yeah, just like chilling in the kitchen and making that. In fact, we started a few years ago. Pre-COVID, actually, we stopped going out for Valentine's Day.
Yep.
My kids, we ship them, you know, to one of their grandparents, and we buy ingredients and make like gourmet meals.
That's
like,
awesome.
Really like
that.
upscale, like Gordon Ramsay type.
Yeah.
Recipes. So.
And you know what's funny is like if you follow the recipe, like. It's actually funny. We just got done watching Ratatouille.
Yeah, just follow the recipe.
Yeah,
like,
he goes, anybody can cook.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's like it's the whole preparation, and then you get to like enjoy the whole thing. And I know when I do it, most of the time I'm actually surprised. I'm like, because I'm not a great like. I'm not gonna say I know my stuff. Like I'm like I can follow directions on a screen and I can figure it out, and I'm good enough to like follow directions
and be a little inventive, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I get if I do it more. It's a little,
I'm more of a recipe follower. My husband gets a little more inventive. Sometimes he gets a little too inventive, but
yeah, well,
and it's a failure.
I did like hamburger mac last week soup because I was like I feel like soup, and we had just kind of like enough, but we didn't have like everything. So I'm like screw it, we're just gonna like whatever. And it came out okay. The problem is we had someone that cooked us soup one time and it was really good because they did the pasta on the side.
Yeah,
and the pasta and the meat over. And I was like, it'll be fine. We're gonna eat most of it tonight. I'm just gonna throw it in. Yeah. Well, of course, and I'm like not thinking. We finished the meal, or I finished like the main cooking of the meal. We had about an hour before we were going to eat, so I'm like, I'm just going to put it on low.
It got all mushy.
And then next thing I know, these like freaking, they just
They're
like
mushy.
plumped up. They're mushy. There's so much water in them. They're heavy. I'm like, I messed this up. But
sometimes it's a swing and a miss.
It was a swing and a miss. And Gina's like, no, it's pretty good. I'm like, this tastes like crap. It didn't taste like crap. It just was like in my head. I was
sometimes
like,
it's a miss, you know?
Yes, I was like, I'm going to do great. And I was like, fell on my face. But I think the process of cooking and the process of having wine with it, whether or not the wine pairs with the food, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of a
relaxing, fun activity.
Yeah, and I actually like put on like Italian music.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, there just kind of like, or you put on like the old.
I put on
like,
acoustic chill music. Is what
that
I
too?
say. Alexa, put on acoustic chill radio. It's my favorite.
Mine's like the crooners, but like Frank Sinatra, like Dean Martin, like just the old music. But it's like it just kind of feel like I'm in like an Italian restaurant in New York City. But and usually I'm not even making Italian. I'm making whatever else. But I think it's a lot of fun.
And coming full circle, some of the best meals I've ever eaten in my life, Disney World, bar none.
Really?
Oh my God, they have amazing chefs there.
So when Gina went, she said it was at Epcot. They went around. They did like whatever. They were different countries or something.
Yep.
And they had a bunch of food, and I forgot she loved Canada, but I think it was because there's probably like sweets.
The cheese soup there.
Was it cheese soup? It was
There's this cheese soup in the Canadian complex, and their filet mignon is to die for.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Is Canada known for that?
Apparently. I don't know that I thought that, but
so I mean, like Montreal has some great food,
right? I don't know that I've gone to Montreal and that was the best cheese soup I've ever had in my life.
The only thing I think of Montreal is poutine.
Poutine, yeah.
Like I think that
which I don't think they have there.
It's
like, very authentic, except for the Canadians.
They're like, this is so touristy. We're just gonna get some cheese curds. Take a cheese curds. Yeah. But most people up here like use cheese curds because they do it proper. And you go to someplace else, and I'm like, what is this crap? Like, I'm a big cheese curd guy. I like that.
Sandy's Deli. I'm biased. They have great poutine.
Yeah, Sandy's Deli. Someone said the other day, Banker's Orchard has good poutine.
Really?
which is weird. You want to think, but they have like this little. I've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
ate there, but
yeah.
they have this little place, and people are like, no, like the poutine is like dope
Really?
here.
That's interesting.
Rumor. I haven't had it, so it's
Huh.
not first. You know what's really good though is a thin crust pizza at Mickey's. I've said it multiple times. If you have not had that,
have
also
not had
people
that.
people sleep on Mickey's, and I'm saying if you go to Mickey's and get the thin crust pizza, best pizza in Plattsburgh. Camping.
Yes.
Is this camping like?
Glamping.
Okay, so first that's good. That was actually that was not my first question. That was my
a camper.
So camping, is this like going around cross country like Griswold style, or is this like
No.
going to camp
This
sites?
is okay. So let me preface this by saying, if you had told me 10 years ago that I would enjoy going to Ellenberg and camp, I would have said
Blue Haven?
Yep. But I would have told you at the time, pound sand, that's never going to be me. We now go up pretty much every weekend in the summer.
Nice.
Is something about like the camaraderie of the other campers. Like we've made some really great friends up there.
Yeah.
We have a really great site. I'm biased, but you know, we have like access to the creek and then access to the pond. And, you know, it's something about being able to get away a little bit without having to like make this big monumental trip out of it.
Yep.
You know,
My in-laws have a place. Is it Twin Ells?
Yep.
So they have one there, and I have really never been to a camp. My wife camped when she was a
Yep.
kid. They did a cross country thing, which is actually on my bucket list. Like I
Yeah.
want to do a cross country like.
my parents
trip.
did it.
Yeah, and I think that's be so cool.
They took like 4 weeks when my
Oh,
dad
I-
retired, and they went everywhere.
Yes, and I would do every back road. I would
Yep.
just want to like
Yep.
see the whole country. But I agree. You go there and it's like nobody's in a rush. Everybody's chill. It's like it's kind of like everybody's on vacation mode, like in North Country Wood style. Like if you go down to like
Yeah.
South and you're like, it's almost like Margaritaville of like the North
Yeah,
Country.
exactly.
Like people are just chilling.
Exactly. Hanging around the campfire, you know,
And
it's just, and the kids meet other kids and they have their camp friends and like, it's a safe place for them.
Yeah.
You know, they can run around without fear of, you know, running into the street kind of thing.
Well, and I feel
Although some people are crazy on their golf carts, but
well, this is the thing. You can only go 5 miles an hour in your car, and they like yell at you if you go 6.
Yeah.
But you can
Oh,
drive 15 drunk in
yeah.
a golf cart, and nobody cares. I'm
it's
like,
so true.
what is wrong with this?
That's just, yeah,
I say it all the
camping.
time. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I can't go 5. Like I'm hitting the gas to just move, and it's going up to like 7. So, but I do.
So true.
Yeah, but the I think the idea of just like getting away, and I think the calmness of it versus like
Yeah.
the stressed out like
Yep.
ping 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 all day long.
Yep.
I mean, at least like you said, now you have like the weekend, so it's
Yeah,
just like
and
a
like
chill.
we don't get. I mean, some people live there full time, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the summer, we only go up on the weekends, so like, I don't get satellite TV or anything like that. So like, the kids are forced to like,
Yeah, it's a getaway.
yeah, and I mean, the service is fine, but it's not like, you know, super great. So like, they do have to put their phones away and read a book or make a fire or go for a walk or, you know, go do something.
I was gonna say the reading thing. Do you read a lot?
I've gotten much better. I used to, and then college really soured me on it for a while, but
Okay.
I've really gotten back into reading. So but I realized that in order for me to enjoy reading, I needed to like, it's kind of like what we were talking about with podcasts before. Like, I just need to, I feel like I do the intellectual a lot during my professional life. So
Yep.
I need like just a mental break.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just reading like stuff for fun. Like I'm not necessarily reading like biographies or I'm reading like right now I'm reading a Court of Thorns and Roses. It's not the Roses one, it's the second one, but it's like very
Serious?
it's very fictional. It's maybe a little smutty and it's great. Like I just love it.
I have that's the thing. Like there's times I just gotta read a book that's just like for entertainment, and I have such a hard time doing it. And some people are the opposite. Like I like learning stuff, so like I read to learn
Yeah.
versus read to relax. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, can't do this. And then I end up like getting. And I don't watch a lot of TV, but every once in a while, like at night, I'm just like I'm burnt out. I just want to watch a dumb comedy.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I don't want to watch like the reality TV garbage. I want to watch like the Adam Sandler garbage. Like I just want something where I can mindlessly watch and be like, I've seen this a million times.
Yeah.
Like I just want to not pay
Yeah.
attention, but pay attention.
Yeah.
So it's just like an escapism.
Yeah.
And I ask this question a lot to people when they have like things going on. Like, how do you
Yep.
keep everything organized, or what's your like daily flow? Like, how do you try to like? Because again, different kind of roles, obviously,
Yeah.
as a parent and everything else. But like, how do you kind of try to keep everything together? And the other thing, because you're in like a leadership role and you're kind of, I guess however it's broken down or the dynamics within both of those positions.
Yep.
How do you get time where you're like working in business versus working on the business, or timing to, because I always find I have to really prioritize making time to think and work on stuff on the business because I need space. I need like time.
Right.
Where me calling people about like real estate is not very mentally taxing on me anymore.
Right.
So like I can do that quick in the car before I'm like run. Like I talked
Yep.
to someone, I was like right before we came in
Yep.
here, and I was like wasn't even really thinking. But if I need something big, like I'm blocking off probably 4 hours of my day to just like sit and
Right.
process and read. Like, do you
Right.
get that opportunity? Do you make time for that, or do
I think you
need
have
that?
to. I think you
Okay.
have to. Well, in my position anyway.
Yeah.
I'm pretty conscientious about that. For example, I know I'm leaving for a conference in Lewis County tomorrow night. I'm heading for an IDA conference, and I know I have a board meeting next Monday. So it's like, okay, my executive director's report has to be done. I need 3 cost benefit analysis that need to be completed. So, and I was sick on Monday, so I wasn't able to go to work. So like I literally took my calendar on Wednesday and went block from the second I get in there until 3 p.m. So because these are the things I want to work on. And I'm a big list maker. Like I make lists. I think there's something for me mentally about being able to check things off. I'm going, yes, did that. Okay. And then personally, I think that is more about, I'm lucky to have a really good partner and good family support. And like when they say it takes a village, it really, I don't know about you, but it does.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would not be where I was without, the support of my husband and my family, because it's kind of, who's on deck. It's like, okay, fortunately my daughter has her license now, and that's been like a huge thing.
Yes.
But it's usually more like, okay, who's bringing Kayla soccer practice? Who's picking Kira up from volleyball? Kira, they both have drama tonight. Kayla has, Kira has violin. Kira's got to work. It's just, it's a constant shuffle. And then, like I said, I do have a travel business. So, I do try to block certain times out to make sure I'm following up on that stuff. And, so I think it's just, for me, it's about balance and list making and really relying on the support of your partners. So,
do you have any preference on, so like Monday, you blocked off almost the full day. Like, does that include, so no meetings that day? No,
right.
Like,
no. In fact, I had a meeting that I was like, move that.
Yeah.
So
does that happen often?
No, I wouldn't say so, but it's like, this one just happened to be like, oh, I'm going, normally I would be in town for the next 3 days, but I'm not going to be. And I know I want my focus to be on learning the stuff at the conference I'm going to. So, I really wanted to make sure I don't like to do things last minute. That drives me crazy.
Yep.
So like I want that stuff in my assistant's hands before I leave Wednesday, so they have time to review it. They can make any corrections, then they can pop it back to me. Then I can send it to my board. They have time to review it, so I don't like anybody having to show up on a Monday at a board meeting and go, what's this?
Yeah.
So,
do you have like a better, any times during the day better like workflow for you wise?
kind of depends on the day, I guess,
Or I guess like energy level or.
Yeah. It's so hard because, I think I'm a lot more balanced just because the last, the 5 years before this job was just a constant go, 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 that this is like, I'm just more manageable, right? Like I'm able to kind of think more deeply, see more clearly rather than just a constant go, 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 go. So it's, I guess for me, it's just about, like you said, prioritizing. If I know something needs to get done by a certain time, like, I'm going to dive right into it first thing in the morning, but who doesn't have a little afternoon slump? But sometimes I find like I'm more energized in the afternoon, depending on what happened during the morning.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. I would say my normal go-to is the morning.
Yeah.
But then there's sometimes I just get, like you said, you get those really good spikes.
Yeah.
I actually find some days I get the spike in the afternoon. There's days I'm almost like overtired.
Yeah.
And I'm like to the point where I'm like, I should be crashing right now, but I'm like burning it on fumes right now and make it happen.
Well, and so I just got back from Jamaica because my little sister got married. So that was.
You look very tan.
Yeah, okay. My white Irish Catholic skin.
You're like me. You're red or you're
like
burnt or white.
SPF 60. So,
well, that's cool.
It's funny. It's funny what you do before you go on vacation, though, right? Because like I don't want to have to worry when I'm on vacation. So like I am obsessed with emptying my inbox, checking like everything off the list before I leave. So what was nice is I came back and I was like, oh, I really got so much accomplished that I'm kind of ahead of the game here. So
Do you know what Parkinson's law is?
no.
That you expand work to fill the time that you're given. So,
Yeah.
So it's basically, and it's this kind of thing. If you're like
Yeah.
going on vacation, like you get everything done.
Yeah.
Like I got to
Yeah.
leave on Thursday, and it's like I will get everything I need to be done
Yeah.
by then.
Yeah.
But yes, no. I always ask people because I'm always like I'm always fighting that like efficiency,
Yeah.
fighting that like
Yeah.
prioritizing. I've gotten better at it. But I'm so much into that like
Right.
I like seeing what other people are doing because I'm
Right.
like, you know,
Yeah.
either I'm on the right track or I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
they're doing
Yeah.
something really cool. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's always as you take on more and more, like, because you're busy. And are you on any other like committees or fundraising things? I'm sure you are not just.
So we're on the YMCA together.
Yes.
And I started doing the capital committee for that as well. And I've been for a long time involved in the St. Mary's Bazaar.
They still have that?
Oh yeah,
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done the parade for the last 8 years. That was my last and final year. I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. They asked me to take on the burger booth, which is the biggest like moneymaker for that function, and I
With Burgundy, right?
Yeah, but right.
Yeah.
But doing both, I'm like, I can't do both, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. So, but I really enjoy. There's something about flipping a burger for your like the betterment of the community, and like it's mindless, it's fun, and you're giving back, and like I just really enjoy it.
It's every year I see Cashman at the county fair
Yep,
doing it.
right, yep.
I'm just like, it's got to be 1,000,000 degrees in there.
Oh yeah,
Big
absolutely.
smile, loving
Yep,
it. Yeah.
Yep. So I've been very involved in that for a long time. I actually was just appointed to in January. I'll start a term on the CVPH board.
Okay.
And then there's a couple of boards I'm involved in because of my position. So like AEDC or Workforce Development Board or things like that. So
I find that like the cool thing about the North Country, I think there's so many people that are aligned on a lot of things that I think, and this is like, different groups.
and Rotary too. So.
Okay, yeah. So, but if you look at like a lot of them, it seems like a lot of people want the same thing. So
Yeah.
each group is kind of all pointing in the same direction,
Yeah.
which, again, I'm not on the inside talking, obviously, having you on and some of the previous guests over the last probably 2 months. I feel like there's a lot of synergy amongst different groups and of big groups, important groups locally. So that's got to be good on the inside when you guys are working
Right.
on it. Like we're not
Right.
fighting TDC. Like
Right.
we're actually like trying to
Yeah,
collaborate.
I think that's what makes the North Country unique, right? Is that we really rely on collaboration and partnerships, and I think that's why you see, when obviously like the Nova bus closure is sad, and we hate to see that, but the North Country is resilient, and there's always, like you said before, there's always something on the horizon next. So it's not like we're totally devastated by that, because we know we're going to come through it stronger because we have these amazing partnerships.
Is that because you did stuff on the the local level and probably some on the federal level, right, with Bill? So it's like, is that normal to see, or do you find like as you get maybe bigger or kind of those middle to big cities that there's more? Because when you look at like I always go like politics, like national politics is very divided. Which then when you go down like local level, I feel like most of it is like I always vote like, who do I think is the best person or most experienced or will step up the most or care the most? And I think that most people do that.
Yeah.
Do you find
you don't really see the partisan bickering at the local level?
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
But when you get to like the collaboration aspect, do you think that
Because like when you're talking about wastewater, it's really not about, do
Everybody's like,
you
the water
believe in a
sucks.
hot button topic or not? It's like, we need to fix it. Let's find the money.
But if you go up from like say Plattsburgh to like let's say like a Saratoga, then to like an Albany to New York City, like when you make those jumps up, do you think that the collaboration is as in tune as maybe the North Country is, or do you think it starts
I'm
to
biased,
filter?
but I don't think so.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it's
I look at like I'm just gonna pick on them for a second. Is Orange County? Those guys have had
Southern New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their senator, for example, is very anti-IDA. Some bad actors did a few bad things, and their senators very strongly opposed to anything that IDA or IDAs in general want to do. So, on the flip side, here we've got an assemblyman who's in the majority who I can pick up the phone. I realize that I'm probably can pick up the phone a little easier than some, but but he answers the phone when anybody calls.
Yeah.
And, I talked to him about different IDA issues. And he's like, all right, let's see, how do we fix that?
Yeah.
That's not the case in other areas. So, and, he'll say, well, let me see who let me call this person about this, or I can call Gary Douglas, or I can call, whoever it is. Like, I don't see that replicated. It's certainly replicated in some other counties. I think Lewis County is doing a great job of that. But no, I think the North Country is special in that.
We hear a lot, like, when you talk about like the chamber and you talk about like little, it's kind of funny because I think that there's a good quote, like, you're not an expert in your own backyard. And I think sometimes people overlook people in the North Country and they're like, wow, it's just the North Country. And I'm like, there's a lot of smart people in the North Country. A lot of like, roll up your sleeves, get stuff done kind of people. And I think it's funny because we live here and you think it's like a small area, but then when you go on the bigger scale, and like, we're not as I guess cut off from, like, you might see smaller areas around the country. Like, we're still like in one of the biggest states in the world, or in the country, close to some major cities. When you take like Boston, New York, Montreal.
Politics aside, our senator is the majority leader. Our congresswoman is third ranking Republican in the House. I mean, we have an assemblyman who's in the majority. I mean, we are really, really fortunate and poised here in the North Country, truly, Clinton County in particular. But
and I think there's enough connections when you go to like the state and federal level. Like I said, I mean,
Absolutely.
Gary talked about that, of like, get on the plane and go and be in the room and but it's good to have people that are like, I'd rather just chill for the weekend. It's like they're like they're workhorses. A lot of them are, and they've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
And, I think when you talk to a lot of them, it's like, when are you retiring? And they just like laugh. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, thank you. Don't die. Just keep going. Like, can you live to 200? That'd be awesome. But
won't be me.
no. It's like I gotta go to Disney. So is there anything that you like? Either IDA or economic development that you would like to see happen maybe over the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah,
like kind
actually,
of like
I'm glad
maybe
you asked
kind of
that.
like a semi-medium, long-term, short-term, I guess.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have in Clinton County right now is revitalizing the former Clinton County Airport. That is a 450-acre parcel, which we could do a lot with. It's uniquely positioned. It's right adjacent to the Air Industrial Park, home to TDC. We have been fortunate to secure $3 million from the federal government to build some infrastructure out there, and we are working with the state to potentially secure some more funding to expand that. And right there. Yep.
I was gonna say, so you're talking about all like what space, like even this back here?
Yep. This is owned by TDC actually currently.
Where all the woods are, the grass. Okay.
Yep. The town of Plattsburgh has put forth some zoning there, most of which encompasses what we call they termed special district. So, looking at industry, putting industry there. We had an agreement with a developer. Unfortunately, their parent company kind of is going belly up, so they stopped moving forward on that project. But much like, Onondaga County, when, they had many swings and misses, they had Samsung for a while and they pulled out, and now they ended up with Micron. So, I'm not saying Micron's going to be here in the North Country, but we have some businesses that are currently expanding like crazy. I mentioned Schluter. Michelin is doing very well.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So, these are Beta Technologies doing very well. This is uniquely positioned because you've already got CV Tech is located right there. So you talk about workforce development. I mean, you could put a manufacturing place up here and utilize CV Tech to help you train your workforce.
So basically everything around the fairgrounds down to the Saranac River, like this is all free game?
Yep, pretty much.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because I talked to when David said whatever the road is down here, and he said you can probably put like 6 buildings about the size of this.
Yep.
There, which would, whatever, how far that distance would be down.
So sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
So this is TDC right here.
Yep.
The Rover building will come out and around here.
Oh, that's where it goes. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to step
No,
away
that's fine. No, okay, so that makes more sense. Yeah, I was just kind of going off of like.
Yep. And then, eventually it would be great if we could go out to the east and connect to Ruger.
I feel like that's kind of set up for that at this point.
The only problem is there's some wetlands there.
Oh, gotcha.
So we would have to delineate some wetlands. It would be expensive. All of these are expensive, right?
Yeah.
To build a road, it's cost me $6 million.
Is there other space county-wise that's kind of like potential?
Not like that.
So this is like prime right here.
Yeah. The only other thing that pops to my mind is the former Miramar Mall in Champlain.
So what would be going on with that?
So Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board did identify that as a potential housing location. So that's something they're looking to see if it's actually feasible. And then, of course, you have the industrial park in Champlain. And then you have North Star, which has a industrial.
Is there anything looking to go in North Star?
There's actually more there going on than you realize.
Really? Yeah, because it looks like,
right.
Yeah, it's no Wyeth anymore, so that's why I was like...
Right, but there is, I know they're working with Cornell. There's a couple of different outfits in there that are actually expanding. So things are going well. But yeah, those are the ones that, pop into my head.
What about Wyeth and Rouse's
And obviously,
Point?
I'll touch on that for a second. But the county obviously owns the former airport, so that's a priority for us is getting that developed and sold because we own it. ERS is doing well. They have 2 tenants in there right now. I was in there just a few weeks ago.
That's Rouse's Point?
Yep.
Okay.
And one of them is Fairmos. It's they're specific to Walmart. They warehouse the shelving for Walmart. Walmart has very specific shelving that they use. And so that company just does warehousing for shelving. So when you go in there, there's like these massive towers of shelves. And then there's another company called 2CRSI. They specialize in servers, not mining. I want to be clear. Those are 2 very different activities. And they actually just created it's a patented thing where they stick these servers into this liquid of sorts, and it will pull the heat off of those servers and use that heat to generate electricity. So
For Rouse's Point, or they...
For that building.
Oh, just the building. Gotcha.
Yeah. But, servers do throw an incredible amount of heat off of them. So this is a really unique thing. And they're selling those things to companies across the country that will help.
So right now, this is all just flat, right? They tore all this down. So at the Wyeth, so basically you have these 2 back buildings right here.
Yep, and they actually just redid the roof on the top of it, and they're exploring putting solar panels on the top of it. It's an extremely open area, a lot of sun.
Yeah.
And the lake, with the proximity, I imagine the reflection will probably be, they could actually generate a lot of electricity that way and give it to the grid.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, there's so much space. I mean, obviously, like a lot of it's privately owned, or state owned, but you can.
And there's a lot of like vacant land that a lot of energy projects are going up on right now. There's a application for the IDA right now for a very big wind farm in Clinton, Altona.
And that's stuff that you work on too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That'll be a $1.54 billion project.
Is that more state funded, federal funded?
A lot of privately funded.
Private? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that'll be one of the biggest projects we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, when you start looking at I always get, obviously this is like looking at it from like a really big perspective, but when you start to see, like I was thinking the other day, when you're watching TV, I know this is weird, it has nothing to do with what we just said, but it kind of does. When you watch TV and you thought like, okay, at some point in time, we basically had nothing. Like we had dirt, people made spears, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, at what point did someone figure out that you could like make light, and then light goes on a screen somehow on a screen, and then you get to the point where I'm like, now I was getting a movie for our kids, and like we just went, you can go on, was it like Prime or something? You just click and like, I want it.
You go on your smart TV and you say, I want to watch, what was I watching the other night? I was watching A Star is Born, and I put it in the home screen of the TV.
Yeah.
And it told me 4 different apps that I could open to get it on and which one was cheapest.
I know. And
right?
I remember as a kid, I was like, wouldn't it be cool to like take a
We went to
bath and
Blockbuster.
watch? I had this conversation yesterday. I said, this was something, I don't know if this is Mandela effect on me, but like, did Stewart's used to sell videos, like rent videos? I feel like I remember going to Stewart's and they had like a little turnstile, like kind of like when you first walked in on the side.
So
it wasn't a lot. It might have been 20 movies.
And Shazy, I don't know. But I remember in Rouse's Point, where Dollar General is now, there was a video store right there for like a long time.
Down by Pratt Street?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I remember
there was a bank there, and then the bank closed and they turned it into a video store because the movies that you had to be over 17 to were in the vault.
behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So I remember Blockbuster, but then Under One Roof.
Oh yeah.
And then,
Yep.
which I think still is doing something. They're
think
still
they do
building
something
there,
there.
which is like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they do, video games,
Yeah.
whatever. But for some reason, I thought Stewart's had it. But I was thinking in my head,
And they
yes,
still have those red boxes around. I see
which
them.
is still wild. I think
Yeah.
they have one at Walgreens. I'm like,
I don't even
why
have a
would some-
DVD player anymore.
No, my car, my car doesn't have a CD player.
know.
And when you start, my car has one USB. And
Yeah.
I had to find it. Like I had like the C ports.
Because now it's all Bluetooth. Yeah.
It's Bluetooth or the C
Yeah,
ports, which
yeah.
is wild. But I remember like thinking, because again, if you go back, like time wise, like take most social media, take smartphones, take all this stuff. It's like it's about 15 years old. Like Google's 25 years old.
Yep.
But I was going back to like the TV aspect. I'm like, at what point did someone come up with the idea with nothing but raw material? Because
Yeah.
it's all we have in
Yeah.
the world. And we somehow created this, what we're on, or this computer. I'm like, how did people... This still blows my mind. Now, granted, it's probably a very easy concept and millions of people know what this is, and I'm just not smart enough to figure this out.
I wouldn't say smart enough. Our brains are just wired differently.
Yeah, and I just haven't researched it, I guess. But like, if someone came up with the idea like to build this computer, and you came up with all the microprocessing chips, which are basically just out of elements, and I'm like,
Right.
who thought of all
figured
this
that
stuff
out?
and figured this stuff out? And like,
Yeah, somebody much more intellectual than myself. I can tell
well,
you that.
and then I was like, if you think like medicine, and I just saw my son just had like surgery and had like
Yeah.
ear tubes and tonsils, all that good stuff, and so like now we're turning around like giving him like Tylenol or ibuprofen, which acts like basically in a couple minutes, like he's
Yep.
fine. I'm like, what did kids do 50 years ago, 100 years ago,
Suffered.
200 years? I know,
Yeah.
and you're just like, I can't breathe, my ears, this,
Yep.
whatever, and I'm like, I don't
That's
know.
why mortality rates were so much different, right?
And then when you look back then, it's like losing a child, which is like my worst fear in life, was
Yeah.
like normal.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's wild. And then I know this is kind of a weird concept, but I think of all this stuff and then I'm like, where's the next like 50 years going to go? Like,
and it's going so fast, right?
It's
It's
compound-
lightning speed.
Yeah.
Lightning speed. I mean, look at AI. It's crazy.
well, I was talking, who it was Matt Boyer last time. I said, what happens when we get AI where you basically, whatever, you put glasses on or whatever, and next thing you know, based off of what they can pull from, writing, not recordings, but like what happens, because we were talking about Gettysburg, like what happens if all of a sudden you could put on glasses and you were walking around the Battle of Gettysburg like live, and they
Yeah.
were reenacting it based on all the documents that we have.
Right.
They just talk about like stories and just
Right.
talk about like people describing the battlefields and the people and the dress and how they sounded. I'm like, can you
Well,
actually
look at our kids. Why write an English paper when a computer can now do it for you?
Yeah, and if you go,
Please write my paper about XYZ, and it generates a paper.
but I think what's going to happen is you could get to the point where if you took someone from history, take anybody in history that you'd be like, that would be someone cool, and you
and
could
almost reinvent them.
and
Yeah.
reinvent them where the point where it's like, I know what King Tut sounds like.
Right.
Which is wild, but you would actually like be probably spot
But
on.
I think that's why like the SAG actors are going through what they're going through right now. Why hire Meryl Streep when you can just recreate her?
And that's the thing when they talk about creative, which is the
Yeah.
hard part. And I totally get it. And it's almost, I got this from the Elon Musk book. They were talking about if you had a check mark, they said at some point in time, you almost have to get a check mark to tell that someone's
Right.
not AI generated.
Right.
And then it was like, because that what I think is almost going to happen is would go full circle where you're like, that's a cool piece of art, AI
Right.
generated, but this is human generated. So therefore the way to wow somebody is a bigger factor if
Yeah.
a human did it versus
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost going to go that way and then maybe come back.
Or
and-
like I saw somebody use something the other day. They took like a very random picture of themselves
Mm-hmm.
and they told AI to make it into a business headshot. It looked exactly like her, but very professional. And like
Yeah, so
she didn't
wild.
need to dress up. She didn't need to put on makeup. It like
and that
didn't
probably
need a
s-
photographer.
And that probably saved her how much? Just
Exactly.
a couple $100. Like I think.
And it was done like that.
Yeah. And then you can change it too. Like I want a different
Yeah.
shirt. I want
Yeah.
a different,
Yeah.
like I want to change my hair color. I want to
I
change.
used it. I have some editor thing that I was using, and obviously it was a little sweaty in Jamaica. So like those pictures, Jamaica's great if you're at a swim up bar, but being in a bridesmaid's dress,
Yeah.
not so much.
Basking in the 90 degree.
So like I used AI to fix that. So it was a beautiful picture of my husband and I, except we were both sweaty, and I'm like, that's awful. AI fix that.
Like they're in a climate controlled room. This is
Exactly.
amazing. No, I just think that like that kind of stuff, which, is coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. But then I just thought, because I was telling like Matt, who loves history, I'm
Yeah.
like, imagine that you could just like go.
Isn't that amazing to think
like
about?
when you talk about all the streets of Plattsburgh, like AI at some point is going to be able to go and see any type of writing or things that you post and talk about it and recreate that world.
Yeah.
And you could walk around Plattsburgh in 1812 and see everything. Like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this is wild. Like, where's that street? Didn't
Yeah.
exist yet. Like,
Yep.
there's a bridge there
Yeah.
or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that all that stuff is.
It's crazy to think about.
It's scary. It's like but I also think
It's
it's
exciting
change.
too.
It's change, and that's
but
why.
Like I saw something the other day. It's like talking about like the ethical piece, like a kid just typing in, "Oh, do this for me," right?
Mm-hmm.
But so what we need to do is learn how to use it responsibly.
yeah.
Use it. It's going to be there. We need
Yeah.
to know how to use it responsibly.
I also think it's going to allow people to, because this is something else that I've really tried to I've understood more over the last year or so. The idea of like learning to understand versus learning to memorize, and I think like we grew up with like, okay, we have to remember, regurgitate for a test to get a grade, and then you forget it, and then you're on to the next thing, and then you forget it. So you never actually learn, and you do learn, but it's not, you're not learning concepts. And I think one of the ways that I think
Ken Jennings did, I think he remembered all of that stuff.
Yes, exactly. Ken's a robot. I love Ken Jennings. I was talking about him the other day. I'll just tell you off there. It was a funny little thing I saw. But but if you take like learning different applications, and you basically now like kids don't need to memorize stuff because they can Google it,
right?
And I
ask
think
Alexa.
And I think there's a famous quote by like Einstein. He says, "Don't memorize what you can look up. Like
Right.
basically, don't put that in.
Don't
your
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, you don't need to have the bandwidth." But he goes, try to understand complex topics, but how things work. And I think that's what I've tried to figure out more is like, why does that work? Not how does it work?
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I think kids nowadays, I think they're going to transition to be like, we don't need to memorize everything in that textbook about science or history, but I need to know the concepts, or you don't need
I need to understand it.
Yeah, like for history, like why did they go to war? Why was there a famine? Why was there a food shortage? Like think about that, not necessarily like, oh, it happened in 1892. Like nobody really cares what year it happened, but like why did it happen? I think
what precipitated that?
And I think
how do we learn lessons from that?
Yeah, and I think understanding that and connecting dots allows for like innovation.
Yep.
So I think that this is going to spear that kind of thinking.
Right.
At the detriment of what we knew, but also what we knew was like
if Hitler had gotten some good mental health when he was younger, maybe the world would be a little different.
Exactly. And yeah, when we start looking at that too, it's like, well, you can really dissect those people now with more knowledge base and like kind of pick their brains.
Yeah.
And maybe with AI, you can just go back and be like, we need to just dissect your brain. Like you take a CAT scan or whatever, and like, let's figure it out.
Wild.
Maybe you could do. I wonder if that's possible.
Maybe.
Who knows? My conspiracy
You and I will
theories.
not figure that out.
No.
Maybe you will.
I'm gonna watch I'm gonna watch a Netflix documentary on who did it. So, so Molly, because I think this would be a good question for you. I was pulling these out because I think these are fun.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give you 3 questions.
Oh no.
They're fine.
Okay.
They're not that bad. The first one. If you could have coffee, I love this question. If you have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
I would even say living. For me to choose.
I would even say historical or living. Doesn't matter. If you could pick one person that you could just sit down and have coffee with.
Probably JFK. Was that too stereotypical?
No. I want you to answer why, and then
Okay.
I'm going to tell you my next.
You want me to answer why?
Like why? Like what would be a reason why?
There's a very specific reason. My grandmother was the Democratic State Party chairman for Vermont, and she was invited to Kennedy's inaugural ball, and wasn't able to go because she couldn't afford it. So I would love because my grandma never got to meet him. I would love to do that.
You know what would actually be? I like that. That's really fun.
It's really not as political as probably you would think.
No, but it would also be cool to put that in perspective of what age you'd want to go to have coffee with them.
Oh.
So like JFK, like in his 40s as president, JFK in his 20s, JFK, obviously who died in his 40s, but like if you were to say, the reason I was laughing because I've asked that question to 4 people.
Yeah.
All 4 people said presidents.
Oh, really?
All 4 people. It was Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, that was Billy.
Yes, that was Billy. I'm trying to think.
I know
in
he would
order.
say Teddy Roosevelt.
He said Teddy Roosevelt. Cashman said FDR. You said
Yeah.
JFK. And David said...
Oh, that's funny.
He said another
There
president.
would
too.
be a second one just for my own personal.
Okay.
It would be Robin Williams.
Okay.
I adore Robin Williams.
Okay.
And he obviously was a extremely more complicated individual than people ever realize. And I just would love to sit down and talk with him and really know what was going through his head.
What I think would be an awesome concept if you could actually go and have someone do someone do this. They host podcasts, but they only host podcasts of non-living people.
Oh, wouldn't that be incredible?
Like you could recreate the person.
Yeah.
I know they've done stuff like Joe Rogan and Steve
Yeah.
Jobs, and it
Yeah.
actually sounds legit.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you could do that but the questions are like legitimate, where you get to
Right.
the point where they're actually answering questions how they
Yeah.
would probably answer the question.
That's interesting.
Like John Lennon,
Yeah.
or if you had to, like George Washington, like
Yeah.
you thought of these like historical people, even going back like way back.
Yeah. I mean, the Beatles just released a new song, you know?
Did they?
Yeah, you didn't hear that?
No, but
Yeah.
I know they've done some stuff. Like they pulled some old footage.
They
I think
literally have a new song on the radio. Yeah.
it's probably like trending #1 in the world.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
Until 3 weeks from now when Mariah Carey takes it back over.
That's right.
We know that's where it's going.
She's coming out.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Yes.
That's good. I like that. This one's good because you're into travel. What was your favorite trip you've ever taken?
Ooh. I really have to pick between 3.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you break the rules.
Okay. I'm a rule breaker. It's okay. Rules do not apply. Ireland will always hold a very special place in my heart. I've been there 3 times.
Ditto.
But probably the time I took my daughter. That was...
Was it just you and her?
No, well, it was my whole family, but
Okay.
that was, she got to go, and I always feel
Nice.
guilty. Kale hasn't gone yet, but we'll get there. We did a 10-day vacation to Disney World. It was
Okay.
amazing. We did and saw absolutely everything, and
Okay.
it was for Christmas. Like we went on Christmas.
Recently?
No, my daughter was 6 and Kale was 2, almost, well, like 1.5.
Like, was that too young? Too young for him, probably. I mean, he
Yeah.
enjoyed obviously physically there, but
Right.
like memory.
So
but
the thing I say about that when people ask about like what's the right age, I don't know that there is a right age. And my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 49. So I'm a very much live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't remember that trip, I do.
yeah.
So if something ever
But you get to
happened
remember
him
it with
or-
him at the trip.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And then this last trip to Jamaica with my sister's wedding was just super special. Maybe it's just because it's top of my mind. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not every day your baby sister gets married on a beach in Jamaica.
Is she your only sibling?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yep. And we had like 60 people there, and it just was awesome.
It's like an intimate party for days.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was great.
We got married on the beach and it felt like that. It was just fun because
Yeah.
like there was like very little stress
Yeah.
and it was just chill.
It was great. It was absolutely great.
And okay, let me find one. There's like work ones. I don't like those are fun, but
Yeah.
I think there's actually this one would be good, even though it's a business one.
Go for
Let me
it.
see. Wait. Yeah, this is boring. They're not boring. I just want. I like this one. Who has been your most important professional mentor? I don't put you on the
My
spot.
mom.
Okay.
And I know it's my mom, but my mom was a dedicated teacher and taught me pretty much everything about how to be a professional. She was an amazing teacher. She had a very, very special talent. She worked with special ed kids for 33 years and was just damn good at it. There's just something that was built in her to work with kids like that. And not only just in her professional career, but she was always somebody who was on, every volunteering committee possible. And it just let me believe, led me to how I've lived my life and trying to be an extreme professional and give back to my community. So that's just,
That's cool.
I know she wasn't technically my boss or anything, but
No, but professionals, yeah, whatever. That's
so yeah.
those are good.
Yeah, well, I try.
I was actually thinking when I asked all those questions, I'm like, I don't even know if I have an answer because you're on the spot too. If I like
Right,
gave you, would have
right.
had time to think about it. But like sometimes off the cuff is more like
I mean, if I had to pick like somebody I worked with, I would have probably said Sue Merrill. She's
Okay.
she's currently the representative for Senator Gillibrand, her North Country
Okay.
representative, but she also was the representative for Hillary Clinton before that.
Okay.
And Sue pretty much taught me everything I know. So
yeah, the world of politics is like I'm not in it, but like I there's definitely science,
Yeah.
political science part of
Yeah.
it, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Molly, I appreciate coming on.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
This was good because we touched on a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
I always like returning guests. I was telling you before because we kind of go on tangents and we talk about Wizard of Oz and food
Gone with the Wind and
Gone with the
wine
Wind and a million
Disney,
other things.
When you're ready to go, you give me a call.
Yes, because I'm like, I mean, I need help because I'm like, what is? I'm like, Universal's
What's
not
a
Disney.
fast pass? I don't know.
I've heard of that, but I'm like, I want the one where I can just do what I want.
But you were not alone. Trust me.
Yeah.
I explain that all the time to people. They're
I
like,
feel
yeah,
like-
but I want to go to Harry Potter World. I'm like, okay, but that's Universal. That's not Disney.
See, I would have been that. I want the butterbeer. I'm like, oh, wrong. You get.
Butterbeer is pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Is it
very
real
good.
beer?
They have many options. So
We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to end there. Episode 249, Gail and Trombley Show. If you need to find Molly, I looked it up. Just Google Industrial Development Agency. She pops right up. So it's great. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thanks,
Episode
Galen.
249. We're out.
all right.
Thank you for listening to the Gail and Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on all social platforms at Gail and Trombley. Thanks for listening.